Okay, so when I first started getting into structural steel layout and fabrication, one of the problems I always ran into is my square, my speed square, which I like to use quite a bit, it doesn't fit inside the web of an 8-inch I-beam. So one thing one of the old timers kind of taught me was, no, your phone's not broke, I'm just messing with you. We're just gonna make a couple modifications to this, and it's gonna turn out to be a really handy tool for you. I use it quite a bit at the house. I use it a lot around here in the Weld.com shop. Some of the fabrication builds, you might have already seen it. I'm gonna show you how to make it. So what I've done is I've aligned the back gauge to a 45-degree angle to the blade, so that when I come down, I'm gonna be right up against this manufactured edge here. I don't wanna take this edge off, okay? I'm just gonna take this part off, and then we're gonna clean it all up. So because I can't use the regular clamping mechanism in here, I've clamped this to the table using one of the fireball clamps. I put a shim up underneath here, which is the same thickness as the distance of the edge to the square, so this whole square is sitting completely flat. And then I've clamped it back here also. This way when I cut through, everything stays in place. You want to go nice and slow with this, take your time, and remember, don't take any of the material out of this area. I want to maintain all of that material. I don't even want to scratch it if I can avoid it. So now I have some 400 grit sandpaper, and you want to get yourself a good flat surface. And I'm just going to kind of clean up the burrs, and then I'll clean up the corners here with a file. But I'm just going to kind of smooth this out just a little bit. You want to make sure it's flat, that way everything's nice and even. You don't sand one area down any further than the rest. Just want to knock that sharp edge off right here. You don't have to do a whole lot of work on it. Remember, it's aluminum, so it's pretty soft as it is, so you want to make slow, methodical strokes with your file. Same thing over here, just knocking the burr off. I'm not trying to remove a bunch of material, just enough to keep that burr off, and then I'll just clean this edge up here. Okay, and I'm just going to sand this down just a little bit more. Now you'll notice the corners of these are square. On the inside of an I-beam, where that flange meets the web, you have a little radius in there. So I'm just going to coat just a small radius on here, and that way once we put it inside the I-beam, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. But it's going to make your life a lot easier if you have to lay out smaller beams, clip spacing, hole spacing, all that good stuff, because all the tools we use are square, but that edge on the inside where you really have to pull from, it's got like a small radius to it. This is going to make your life a lot easier. So now I'm just going to take a nickel. You can use a washer, whatever you got. I mean, if you have like a small circle stencil, you can use that too, but about the size of a nickel. And I'm going to go right up to this edge here. And I like using a nickel because it's the same width as the bottom piece here. And I'm just going to take a little scribe you can use, and I'm going to mark these areas here. A little bit overkill, maybe, but you know, I've had the same square for the past 10 years and it served me well, so I'm going to take a little time putting this thing together. So now I just have this radiused edge, and I'm just going to knock that off with a grinder, clean it back up with a file, and we'll be good to go. So I have a worn out flapper wheel here, and I'm using a worn out one intentionally. I don't want to take too much material off. I'm just going to take it down pretty close to the line. I'll clean everything up with a file and the sandpaper. Alright, so I showed this trick a couple times before, but if you take a piece of soapstone or sidewalk chalk, kind of load your file, this acts almost as a cutting lubricant and prevents the metal shavings from clogging up your file and then loading it up. And notice how I didn't take any off the back. I'm going to keep that area right there. Okay, so I'm pretty much down to that edge. So we're down to about 5 1/8, whereas we came from a 7-inch square. Pretty much has all the same functions your average welder is going to use this for. I got 90 degrees on one side, 45 on the other, and we're good to go. Let's go ahead and see if it fits back in the beam, and if we can do a clip layout. Alright, so here's the original square. Obviously it's not going to fit in the W8 beam, but if we go down here to this W10, you can see that in the corner it doesn't quite sit right, so your marks could be thrown off ever so slightly. And if you're trying to make a straight cut in here, you're trying to line up for bolts, you don't want to make any errors in here. So that's why you could take this one and radius it, just like we have this one, and then it fits right in that corner. Okay, so everything's nice and square. You don't have to mess with it a lot, you know. Just make you a mark in there, make you a mark. Everything lines up nice and easy. Okay, then you can rotate it up in this corner. Same thing over here. And I can transfer my marks all the way around the I-beam. But with this one, you can't do that. You lose a little bit trying to get it squared up. Just radius that corner off. Right? This thing works great for I-beams. Like I said, I've had the same one, been carrying around for the past 10 years. It works good, when you're working on small stuff too. You're not trying to handle this big piece. This is a little bit smaller, fits in your hand real nice and easy. Just overall, I don't know, Empire, you guys might want to consider looking into making these. Pretty good tools. All right, so on behalf of the Weld.com crew, we hope you guys have a happy Thanksgiving, safe, productive holiday, and until next time, make every weld better than your last.